This is my poster presentation for Psychology 101. Um, my main idea is the main purpose of psychology is actually objective. Many different people throughout time thought psychology had different purposes. So, the title is The Evolution of Psychology by Ezra Unuchimuth. My introduction is that many different psychologists had opinions of what psychology actually was. Different psychologists thought that psychology was the study of our brain, but they all defined it differently. They all thought that, some thought that we do things because of our past experiences or because of our childhoods. And since each psychologist had a different definition of what psychology was, each psychologist had a different method on how to figure out how our brain works and why it works the way it does. So, because of this, results varied amongst the scientific community at this time. Different people came up with different results based off of the way that they conducted their research. So the discussion of this would be the varying of what psychology was in the early years was very confusing to people, because since different people had different definitions of what it really was and what it meant, they were confused on what the definition of psychology was at the time. So, to begin with, Edward Bradford Titchener used introspection to search for elements of the mind's structure. So he asked people to look inward towards themselves and to think about stuff and reflect. William James thought it would be better to go beyond that and label our thoughts and consider their functions. So, why do we act the way we do? Why do we do things that we should do or shouldn't do? Why do we think like how we do now? Another important figure was the first female psychologist to earn a PhD was Margaret Floyd Washburn, and she did animal research behavior. So after all that, B.F. Skinner came along, and he developed behaviorism and changed psychology from the standard definition of the science of mental life to the scientific study of observable behavior. Behaviorism says that psychology should be more objective. Yeah. And then Sigmund Freud was another psychologist, and he developed psychoanalytical psychology. This basically meant that we act the way we act because of our childhood experiences and traumas, and then also because of our unconscious mind. This is what affects our behavior, according to Sigmund Freud. Later on in the 1960s, a new type of psychology was developed, and this was called humanistic psychology. It was developed by Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow, my bad. They thought behaviorism and Freudian psychology was too limiting, and they decided to focus on our need for love and reassurance and acceptance instead of our childhood experiences and our unconscious mind. They also thought that our environment was a giant factor of what affected us to do what we do or think how we think. So yeah, there's many psychologists who thought and had different definitions of what psychology was. This is why I focused on the fact that psychology does not have one single point, it has many varying points. It may be the study of how we behave, but we behave differently according to different people. So, who really knows the reason we behave how we do?